Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the Forgiven Gaming YouTube channel. Today I wanted to go over the top 10 tips for beginner group Ironman. Whether this is a hardcore Ironman or just a regular group Ironman, there's a lot of people that are maybe getting into the game, they may be restarting and they don't really remember all the stuff that they did back when they had first started. So today we're going to go over the top 10 tips presented by myself and Forgiven Oracle as to what you guys can do to maximize your efficiency, primarily in the early game. So without further ado, we're going to get into tip number one. Tip number one is going to be choose your team carefully. This is a rather obvious one and is definitely more important for group hardcores, but choose your team very carefully. We all remember back in the day whenever it was super easy to get scammed with the whole trimming armor, putting jewels in your sword, that kind of stuff. If people didn't have your best interests in heart back then, they're not going to have your best interests at heart now. So I highly recommend, if you're going to get into a group, especially a group hardcore, make sure it's somebody that you've known for quite a while and preferably know in real life. Having someone on your team who does not work with the group also can put a hitch in things, and it can either slow down or prevent the entire team from advancing. This is particularly important, as stated earlier, with hardcore group Ironman.
Okay. So tip number two would be understanding how the actual hardcore group lives work. So when you end up choosing a hardcore group Ironman, you're given however many number of lives. The number of lives you're given is equal to the number of people on your team. So say, for example, you have a team of 3 players, then you're going to get 3 lives. But this doesn't mean that each member only gets 1 life. So, say in that group of 3 players, 3 lives, 1 player could die 3 times and use up all of those lives. And in that case, the entire group would then be turning in the red trimmed armor, as you see we have right here, and would then get a set of armor that's trimmed with blue. So you would still maintain your group Ironman status, but you would lose the hardcore status.
Absolutely. All right, so the tip number 3 is going to be have clearly defined roles. Having clearly defined roles does help the team organize and strategize in such a manner that they can complement each other's strengths. This can be seen in the NPCs here on the node, and if you do need to go back to the node for whatever reason to make any kind of changes to your group, the portal can be found exactly where you leave the portal. So if you're on the node, you leave the portal right over here. You travel into Lumbridge right by the magic, range, and melee combat tutors, and the portal can be found there. So you can always come back here. But a little bit of this you can see in the NPCs here. They're traveling around, they're depositing, they're fishing, they're doing all that. And what this is going to do is it helps to cut down. Having clearly defined roles makes it so that there's not everyone doing the same thing, and you can really speed up your count to get into the mid game or the late game with the better armor, the better weapons, and all that stuff later. So you can have a dedicated Fletcher, a dedicated Smith, potion maker, cook, whatever. Definitely make sure you're establishing your roles, clearly defining them, and then splitting up as needed.
And then, bouncing off of that, you want to make sure that you organize your bank. So, like you said, having organized and dedicated roles, a standard bank has about 816 slots, and there are definitely more than 816 items in the game. So by using that delegation of roles to the different players, you can trade important items to the right person to keep your bank free of all sorts of clutter. And you should probably do that about once a week.
Alrighty, so the next thing, I already said make sure you have clearly defined roles. The next tip from me is make sure you have clearly defined goals. There's a difference between a role and a goal, although generally speaking, your goal is going to be kind of dictated by your role in the group. Your potion maker should have goals such as, get to prayer restore potions by such and such date, get to Serotonin brews by such and such date, so on and so forth. So different from roles, goals are something that you can work towards individually or as a group. I definitely recommend having at least 1 day a week dedicated to achieving a certain goal for an individual on your team, and then rotating week to week whose goal is going to be accomplished. So for this first week, it may be Oracle's goal to get 50 cooking, right? So then myself, Tyrant, and Oracle myself and Tyrant for sure, would go out and fish. We would get the items that she needed to cook. We would just trade those off to her, and then she would cook them. just in a way to boost. The other way, and the most obvious way, and the best skill to do that with, in my opinion, would be rune crafting, the dreaded skill for all people everywhere. Make sure that you have one person rune crafting and then 2 people running, or all 3 of them running, and one of them is the one getting the experience.
Okay. So the next thing is going to be to quest early. Early game quests are really, really good at boosting your skills. So past those difficult first levels. Early game farming is just particularly dreadful and can easily be skipped by questing. So coordinate with your team to pass the most quests with the least challenge. For instance, if your team has a dedicated miner, then have that person go and start mining and collect all the ore for the team so that you can do Doric's quest. And then that way, if you're working as a team and you have each person delegated, again, kind of going back to that delegated roles, each person doing something different, then you're able to kind of lighten the load of getting all the questing done and achieving those goals.
All right, so kind of expanding on that, and kind of an extension of the getting quests done early is going to be make sure you get the untradeable items early. So this will be kind of, like I said, associated with the quests, but make sure you decide which quests you want to do. Some of these untradeable items, and the chief among them, the most beneficial one being the Drayman Staff. It's going to be locked behind Animal Magnetism 1 and 2, which is locked behind Lost City, as well as a number of other quests. You want to look that up and make sure you get that, because once you have the Drayman Staff and access to Fairy Rings, you have access to the most extensive network of teleports in the game. Some other really important early game items to get, or early to mid game, I guess, depending on how you see it. The most important untradeable items are going to be stuff like the Defenders, which can be found in the Warriors Guild, requiring either a total level of 130 split between your attack and strength, or 99 in either or. As well as the Ava's Device, which is going to be locked behind Animal Magnetism. There's a quest line that you have to do before that, such as Priest in Peril, so on and so forth. So make sure you get those, because those are going to be some of the most useful items. Other ones would include Void Equipment, Rune Pouches, Herb Sacks, Seed Boxes, the list goes on and on. So identify which untradeable items you want, which ones are going to be best for you, and then go for those.
All right, and then tip number 8 is do not rush Winter Tot. Getting the skill cape within the first week is definitely a pretty luring concept, but you should definitely focus on just getting your skills up first so that you can increase your rewards, because that's really just going to save a lot of time in the future, as better rewards mean a lot less of a grind.
Definitely. I remember whenever I went through, because I went through there with 2 different Ironmen. One of them had 99 mining beforehand, the other one did not. And I will say that I got a ton less runite ore when going through on the person that had like 30 mining rather than the one that had 99. Tip number 9, one of the best things that you can do, and I think the number one best thing that you can do for your group Ironman to make sure that you have a good beginning, is subscribe to the Forgiven Gaming YouTube channel. On a serious note, we all know that this RuneScape can get a little bit tedious at times, and we always need something to listen to or watch while we're like AFK woodcutting the trees. Watching a tips and tricks video or listening to music on YouTube can be a lifesaver. Subscribing and ringing the bell on this video can ensure that you never miss a video for like tips and tricks, what we do right, what we do wrong. So definitely consider subscribing, hitting the bell. We always appreciate it, and it takes 1 second to do, and it helps us immensely.
Exactly, and kind of bouncing off of that, just have fun. Have fun with the game, and again, subscribe to the channel, because I find myself, even before I started getting into games and kind of getting into this, I would watch some of them. I had no idea what was going on, but I would be laughing, and I'm like, it doesn't really make sense, but it's funny. And so whether you subscribe to us or you have, a mix of different things that you do or within the game, we all play the game for different reasons, whether it's to be on the top of the leaderboards or de-stress or just keep in contact with friends or the community. We all look for some sort of aspect of fun in the game. So identify what that is for you and what will give you the highest quality experience while playing, and do that. We all love this game as long as we keep playing. Jagex will keep supporting the players, so don't burn yourself out. Just have fun with it and stay safe, and thanks for watching. Hopefully you'll subscribe and keep tuning in to whatever craziness we have to share.